Hey y'all, it's Megan. Welcome back. Glad you're here today. We're out here in the cornfield getting ready to pick what we got left of the corn. Hopefully we'll get to it all today. We'll see. We got all the Jimmy Red picked. I'm going to show you it here in the trailer. Some of that's not Jimmy Red, you can see, but that did pretty good. We kept our best looking ears here for seed for next year. So all this can be ground, but that's just the best looking, like I said, that we're gonna keep for seeds. So we're gonna get to picking this Indian corn and just see what it looks like. All right, and I wanted to show y'all this. I was sent these sleeves by Farmers Defense. Now I thought it was kind of an interesting concept, but it is for gardeners to protect your arms and your hands because it goes over your hands. It's got a little thumb hole there. When you're picking garden, because if you're anything like me, some stuff in the garden really irritates your skin. Like we were picking okra the other day and I wore these and it was like a lifesaver because I wasn't itchy and everything. So thought it'd be a good time to wear them up here in the corn, shucking this corn. And I'm gonna put a link down in the description if this is something that sounds interesting to you. They're not hot. They're made out of a material that's not hot at all, so it will work good in the summertime. But check out the link if you want to try some. You can, but I do like them, and they serve a good purpose. And you can take them off, you know, if you do get hot, you just pull them off. It's better than having on a long sleeve shirt. So we're gonna get to picking this corn. Oh, that's a pretty one.
That is a pretty one, Jacob.
I picked that all on my own.
Good job.
This Indian corn here is always like opening up, well, any of it's like opening up a Christmas present, but this especially because it's all got different designs in the kernels. But we'll be saving that for like a decoration.
This also got different designs because what if it looks like that?
Well, that's what I was going to show them. You remember when we first planted this, I was worried that we'd probably have some cross-pollination. Well, I'm pretty sure that we did. I don't know. It's the only way I know that something like this happened. This ear right here come out of the Jimmy Red corn. And check that out. I mean, it's got all purple kernels and a few white kernels.
And this is the normal.
That's what it's supposed to look like. Then we had several ears that look like this that come out of the Jimmy Red, which to me looks like Hickory King that's been cross-pollinated with something. And so I'm not sure if maybe a seed got caught in the planter and was just mixed in over here with the Jimmy Red, or if it actually cross-pollinated across here. But we've seen some interesting stuff, and you know, I think it's fun. I've liked seeing this this cross-pollination, because you just don't ever know what you're going to get. But with this Indian corn, most people use this just for decoration. And you can actually grind it for cornmeal, and you can feed it to your animals. But, you know, some of these ears aren't quite as pretty as others, so we'll be, like that one looks okay, so we'll be using this one for decoration.
Ew, this one's very ugly.
But some of them we're going to...
I can already tell, look.
What's that one
That
look
one's
like?
not going to be good.
Start in the trailer.
Well, you need to shuck it first.
Oh.
Actually, that one don't even need to go in the trailer. Just leave it out. That was rough. But
What's this?
a lot of this that's in the trailer here is going to be for animal feed and for cornmeal.
What's this?
That's some of the Indian corn. But what I was going to say is what we don't use for decoration will definitely go to feeding some animals or something.
What'd you do with mine?
There you go.
That one pretty?
Uh-huh.
Alright.
Any of the ugly ones like that, I'm going to feed.
We have a lot of corn.
got pollinated. Put in your trailer. Hear me? No, I told you, remember, this was the worst looking corn we had.
I made it right in the middle.
Those are decent ones, but the shucks come up well. No, it's not sprout.
Alright, so we're back at the house now. We got our Indian corn picked. You can see most of it's back here. Some of it got mixed in up here, but we can tell the difference. So these are kind of the uglier ears. And we got like 5-gallon buckets of pretty ears. There's one the shuck come off, but it was just too pretty to throw away. See if I can show y'all some of this. Very pretty. So we're pretty tickled with it. For that being on new land, it did good. There's one we thought was interesting. It's just got a few little pink places in it, but it's white and yellow. That one's really pretty. Pretty. So we came back home. We're gonna eat us some lunch. Andy's gonna head and check on his hay. We've got some hay on the ground. So that'll kind of determine what we're gonna do the rest of the day, if we'll be picking our Hickory King or if we'll be in the hayfield. So we'll see. All right, y'all, we're back up here picking our Hickory King corn. We got our Indian corn picked yesterday, ended up going to the hayfield, so we're back up here today to finish hopefully getting the rest of all this picked, and we'll be done with our field corn. Some special things about Hickory King corn: it's a long, skinny, white field corn. Ideally has 8 rows, can have 10, and occasional blue or pink kernel can be found. What we're saving for seed is all white and 8 rows, and preferably 2 cobs or 2 ears of corn on each stalk, because not all of them have the 2 ears. We have noticed this year that the coons and the critters have not been too bad up here. It may be due to the neighbor's dogs, or partly that these ears of corn are high up on the stalk. So it's not like sweet corn where a coon can just walk up to it and grab it and eat it. You know, they'd have to work for this. So we're gonna get this picked.
There's one of your purple kernels, or blue, whatever you want to call it.
They have the occasional
You can look
one of
through there.
those.
There's a lot of them.
So this is our Hickory King laying on top here. And of course the Jimmy Reds down in there and some Indian corn. I'll show you some of these we're saving for seeds. So see this one here? We'll save this one for seeds because it's 8 rows. And I mean, it's filled out to the top. All the characteristics that we want in a cob of corn, that's what we'll save the seeds from.
Yeah, one thing we've noticed about this Hickory King is comparing it to, well, now there could be a difference in the field. Maybe the top side of the field is better than the bottom side. But all year long, that Jimmy Red down there looks better than any of it. But this Hickory King, almost every single ear is good. We threw away a lot of that Jimmy Red that just didn't make.
Wasn't even worth fooling with.
Yeah, it wasn't even worth fooling with. And I don't know, like I said, it may be something different in the soil between here and the top. I mean, here and the bottom side. But I guess we'll find out next year. We're probably gonna plant, I know for sure I'm definitely planting some more of the Hickory King next year. That old ear there ain't too special. But like she was talking about with the big kernels, you want those big kernels because you're using it to grind in as a cornmeal, and it just, they just work better. There's nothing in that.
Let me see if I'm gonna show you one here that's got some big ones in it. So can you see there?
Let me see.
You got a good one with some big fat ones on it.
Let's see how big that kernel of corn is. I mean, it's almost as big as my thumbnail. So, you know, normal corn usually has anywhere from...
It's as big as mine.
Normal corn will usually have like 18 rows, something like that, when you got a big ear of corn. Like this Jimmy Red right here. I'm not going to count them, but I bet if you count that, it's probably going to be 16 or 18 rows of corn. And each kernel, if I can find one.
There ain't no Jimmy Red back here, I don't think, is it?
No, this little piece, this one right here is the Jimmy Red, but I ain't even got to knock it off. You can see the difference in the size of the kernels there.
Here's some with pretty good kernels.
Mm-hmm. And so Jacob and I were curious, since we're going to have so much cornmeal this year, we were talking about, wonder if you can make biscuits from cornmeal flour, or like really finely ground cornmeal. I think we're going to experiment with it and see what we can figure out. So if you've ever made something like that, let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear if you've got a good recipe.
Well, that's pretty good there. Pretty good one too. Yeah. You can put that one in a seed bucket.
This one got big kernels.
That one got big kernels and it's got those pink and blue ones in it.
Got 5 purple ones. We got 1 pink one. I thought it was not going to be a good one.
1, 2, 3, 5,
There's one with a yellow kernel.
7, 8, 9, 10. I've got 10.
That's definitely a seed keeper.
We got 8.
Yeah, it's got 8. They're just some huge kernels.
This one's really weird. This one's crazy. Dad, you're a crazy thing. Oh, it's a
What's it look like? Hey, go over and get that from the center. Lay it on the tray.
I'm gonna get that one.
Got your purple ear in it, kernel in it. Purple in it. It's like 1 purple and 1 blue. Look at this one. I don't know.
Now Andy's going through and bush hogging every row that we pick. He goes ahead and goes through and bush hogs it down.
Yeah.
That way we can just be right next to whatever row we're picking, especially with the weeds in it like it is. But this is what you get when you don't have Roundup Ready corn. We probably could have done a little better with keeping the weeds out, but it's no problem going through like this right here.
Hey, y'all, obviously we haven't grown enough corn here to feed our animals and for us to make our own cornmeal and all that kind of stuff out of. But that wasn't really the intention with this. I wanted to just plant a little bit of it here, the 3 different types of heirloom corn that we planted, and experiment with it just to see. Well, that one didn't do any good. Just to see which one done the best, you know, because we've never planted none of this heirloom type corn. Growing up, we all, when I was living at home, Daddy always planted a field corn, but it wasn't the heirloom type. I mean, it was like a hybrid. It wasn't the GMO type either, but it was just like some type of hybrid corn. And it was the Yellowfield corn. So what I wanted to try was these heirloom type corns and just see which one done the best. And I'm the most impressed with this Hickory King. And we wanted to see just how well they done, because whether people know it or not, corn has been a big part of agriculture for thousands and thousands of years. It's nothing new. Now, I'll be the first to tell you, I don't have any use for the GMO Roundup Ready type corn. I don't want anything that's got anything to do with that. But it's like we all of a sudden forgot that people planted corn for thousands and thousands of years. I mean, the Indians are the ones that showed this stuff to the Europeans when they come across the water, however long ago that's been. And, you know, it's been really a feed source for your animals. Not a main feed, but a supplement type feed. And a food source for humans. It stores well, as long as you keep insects out of it and can keep like rats and stuff out of it. It stores all winter long. You can go get what you got to get to grind up for your cornmeal and stuff, or corn flour. And I just feel like lately, especially with like the newer generation of farmers, they're so against corn. You know, you don't feed corn to anything, I feel like, is what they try to, the message they try to push. And while I'm not saying they're not right, what I am saying is people have done this for thousands of years, almost as long as mankind. And, you know, it's always been here. It's just a simple fact, I think, that now we've forgotten that, you know, it's not all GMO corn. It's not all Roundup Ready corn. While I will say most of the corn grown in the United States is GMO Roundup Ready corn, you know, if you've got your small homestead or whatever, or a small farm, and you're just wanting to feed your animals and your family, I don't see what the problem is with doing it this way, because that's what families done forever. You know, they didn't really worry about selling it to make a profit. They grew it to feed themselves and feed their animals. But pretty much what I'm getting at is, I mean, I know it takes a little bit of room to grow your corn, but I guarantee you, if you look back at pictures of, especially around in the mountains, in the Appalachian mountains, or, I mean, it ain't even got to be just the Appalachian mountains, just any rural community at all in the United States, I bet you if you find you an old picture, a picture of an old farm or home site or something, I guarantee you they got a cornfield around it. And of course it wasn't the GMO corn. It was probably, the good chance, if you've seen it, a picture of here in the mountains, it was probably this Hickory King right here. One funny little fact about the Hickory King is, I think through a lot of people's, like their accent and stuff, you know, around the mountain accent, instead of saying Hickory King, they called it Hickory Cane. So if you ever hear of Hickory Cane corn, it's the same thing as Hickory King. It was just, like I said, I think that was just like a slang type of word for it. But anyways, you know, just look at it. It's an endless food source. We save the seeds from the good kernel, the good cobs, replant them again next year. And your seeds don't do nothing but get better as time goes on, because they're adapting to your location. That's why we're keeping the better seeds. I mean, the seeds from the better stalks and the better cobs and everything like that. We want, if something performed well here, that's what we keep the seeds for. And next year, whatever genetics is in that, and that one, you know, then those seed kernels will hopefully transfer on to the next year's crop. And we'll just keep getting better and better and better. But, you know, to me, I just don't understand where corn got this bad rap that it's got. But, you know, to each his own. I'm not saying anything at all against the people who don't feed corn. You know, that's their choice, and they can do what they want to. But here's my thing on it. Like I just said, we've been doing it for thousands of years, and I don't understand why we can't just keep on doing it, because it's worked. it worked for that long, why can't it keep on working? And I'll tell you this, you know, corn, like we've mentioned in other videos, is a heavy feeder. What we've noticed with this Hickory King, like I said, and how much better it's done, this is poor land. This is not good fertile land at all. This had just a little bit of fertilizer put to it, but nothing. Like my daddy, when I planted this, he's like, you're gonna have to put more fertilizer in that, it won't never make anything. And I'm like, well, let's just see, you know, we'll see how it goes. Well, it went on, and I never added any more fertilizer to it, and he was surprised at how well it's done. And I done a little bit of research, and it said the heirloom type corn perform better in poor soil than the new GMO corn. And so he was so interested by it that he said, well, let's try to save a whole bunch of these seeds and maybe plant a lot more of it next year. And so we may be doing that because
this is a man that's very set in his ways.
Yeah, this is a man who's very set in his ways. Now, he's never planted heirloom type corns either. Like I said, he planted the older, like, hybrid style corn. It was a yellow field corn, but even he was impressed with these heirloom corns and how well they've done. I will say you're not going to get the yield because your plant spacing is too far apart. You have to plant the heirloom varieties farther apart than you would these newer style hybrid varieties, but they have to have room to grow. However, when you look at how well this is done with so little input, then it's kind of like a no-brainer in a way. If you've got animals to feed and you know you want to be truly self-sufficient, make your own cornmeal, make your own corn flour, make your own animal feed. Right here you go. I don't understand why more people ain't doing it, because to be truly self-sufficient in your homestead, you've got to feed your animals too. And so many people rely on that feed store to feed their animals. What happens when that feed store doesn't have feed? And we have seen it happen when they're running out of feed and they can't get it in because of some type of situation. Who knows? Some type of supply chain issue. But like I said, for us this year was a complete experiment. We just wanted to see how it went, and we're really happy with the results we got. And we're going to continue on trying to make it even better. And hopefully next year's harvest will be a lot bigger than what this year's harvest was.
So y'all, if once all this dries and we get it shelled, if any of y'all would be interested in any seeds, leave it down in the comments. I don't know if anybody would be interested or not. If we have enough to get rid of, we may definitely consider it. So just let us know. We love to hear from you. And like I said a while ago, I mean, you can tell this ain't Roundup Ready corn. All these weeds in it. It's had no chemicals on it besides a little bit of fertilizer Andy put on it, so it's done pretty good. I think people, like he said, I think people forget that you can have corn that's not a GMO corn.
One thing I would like to talk about, that was no good. We have a friend who farms and who actually plants Roundup Ready corn. And of course, we won't talk about that. He gets a little defensive when you go to talking about these heirloom type corns and everything. And that's his business. That's what he makes a living on. I'm not going to say nothing about it. But you know, we got some corn from him one time, and we were just playing with our meal when we first got it because we had no corn at all to grind in it. Our cornmeal meal.
And I'll show that to y'all whenever I go to grinding some of this for cornmeal.
But so we wanted to try it, so we just got some from him, and it was like a 2-gallon bucket full. And y'all, the kernels on that stuff was so hard, our meal would not grind it. So we were a little worried that, you know, that thing wasn't going to grind corn like it's supposed to. So another one of my friends grew some of this Hickory King. I got like 2 or 3 years from him and shelled it. We brought that home and tried to grind it. It worked perfect. It went through that thing like it was, well, it was meant to be. Because that's what it's for, is to make your cornmeal and stuff from. But, you know, it was just amazing at how much harder those kernels were.
It's not electric, it's a hand.
Yeah, it's a hand.
It's a hand
grinder. I bought that on purpose. I wanted to make sure I had a hand powered grinder. Cause you know, I don't want to come across as one of those people who's worried the grid or anything's going to go down, because I'm not really worried about that. But I don't know if it really ever would or not. But just in case we ever had to grind it and we didn't have power, we can still do what we got to do and stay in action. And that's the only reason I bought a hand crank grinder, because that was going to be like a lifetime investment for us. We wanted to buy it and buy it once and never had to buy it again. And you know, it's just kind of one of the main reasons I bought that thing. I can't even remember I bought it offline. It's called
I'll put a link to it.
yeah. We'll put a link to it. I can't remember the website it was on now. It's just taking a little longer to pick because there's so much corn.
You're right, our trailer's gonna be full.
That's what we want. Here it is. This is what we got out of the whole field. Under this white corn is the Jimmy Red corn. It's covered up right now. But and by the way, it's like a week later since we actually picked it. But we've got it under the barn shelter here, so to keep the rain off of it and kind of letting it dry a little bit more before we actually do anything with it. But I wanted to show you right here some of the Jimmy Red that we kept out for seeds. That's some pretty stuff. Really pretty corn. We've actually already eaten some cornbread made from this right here, and it turned out real good. And right here's our white corn we kept for seeds. Look over here. But we just tried to pick some that were completely filled out, and they were, you know, a lot of these may have had 2 ears per stalk, and so that's something we wanted to try to keep. And anyways, I'm sure some of this right here would be good to use for seeds too. And matter of fact, some of this is probably what we'll end up grinding for cornmeal. We've already been feeding some of it to the pigs. We've got 6 pigs, and each day when we go down there to feed them, we'll grab 6 ears and throw in there so they'll have one apiece to eat on. And the chickens have been eating on it. But one thing I wanted to say about this heirloom type corn is, you know, this is your seed. You can do anything you want to with it. If you plant Roundup Ready corn or, you know, something such as that, you can't sell that seed legally because it's trademarked. You know, the seed companies own the trademark to that seed. So you can sell it, but you can't sell it to replant. Let's put it that way. You sell it to the people who are gonna, you know, who buy it up for consumption or whatever, for animal feed or for human feed, whatever it goes to. But you can't take and replant that seed or sell it to somebody to replant, which I'm sure it probably, being that it's a GMO seed, I'm not sure that it would even grow up to produce another ear of corn. I really don't know if it would or not. But my point is like this right here, I can do whatever I want to with this. I can replant it next year. I can sell it to anybody I want to. It's mine. It's, you know, it's not trademarked by anybody or anything like that. And you know, so it's yours to do what you want to with it. And so that kind of just takes you back to the old way, the way it used to be. You know, you grew your corn, you saved your seeds, what you needed from it. You could sell some to your neighbor if he needed some, or even give some to your neighbor if they needed some to plant, whatever you needed to do. But my point being is, these seeds are not trademarked. These seeds are your seeds, to do whatever you want to do with them. And I feel like that's something fairly important. When your grandpa Meagan, you said he always saved his seeds.
He never bought corn to plant. He always
never bought corn seed. And you know, it's crazy to think. Of course, I know it's got a lot to do with yield and all that stuff. You know, this corn right here is probably not going to yield like some of the GMO corn and all that, you know, per acre, or how many bushels you're going to get. But it's crazy to think that with my experience of corn, the seed is one of the most expensive parts of it. You can spend several $100s on just a 50-pound bag of seed, which will plant, I can't remember how many acres one bag will plant now right off the top of my head. But, you know, that's one of the most expensive costs to corn. Of course, your fertilizer is too. But when you go to buying that GMO seed, it's expensive. And depending on what type of seed you buy, it can get real expensive. When in reality, sometimes you wonder if you're just better off just to plant something like this, save the seed from it year after year. Of course, you're going to have to set some to the side to save for seed, and you know you're going to have to. But if you plant a lot of it, you can save a lot of seeds. So, anyways, I just felt like, especially if you've got a small farm or a small homestead or something like that, I really think it's something good to invest in. It's a one-time purchase. As long as you save your seeds each year, you never have to do anything, you know, you never have to buy seeds again. Unless you were to have a catastrophic failure on your crop and not make anything, or something eat it all. I guess that would be the worst case scenario. But anyways, this is what we got here. Like I said, obviously this is not enough corn to feed our animals throughout the winter, but that wasn't really the goal with it anyways. We just wanted some just to have as a little bit of extra. And our main goal was to grind for our cornmeal and corn flour and grits and all that stuff. That was our main goal, and this is way more than enough for that. But, you know, if we only had like 1 or 2 pigs and just enough chickens just to get our eggs, and then enough chickens to get our meat and not sell to anybody else, you know, we just had just enough for us to eat on, it wouldn't take that much corn to do it. So if you had on your farm maybe 2 or 3 acres you could plant in corn, well then there you are. You're set up that you could grow enough feed for your animals. You know, and I'm saying you're just feeding your family, and that's it. You're not feeding anybody else, you're just feeding your family. You could grow enough corn on your little place to do it and to make it and be almost what you would call self-sufficient as far as feed goes. You wouldn't have to go back to the feed store. And if you get you a small grinder, something you can grind this up with, then you really are set. So, anyways, it's a lot to think about when it comes to stuff like this. It depends on just how far, as far as being self-sufficient you want to go. But either way, like I say, I think it's a great idea if somebody wanted to do this type of stuff, to grow them some heirloom corn. That way you can always have your seeds from it. You can make a cornmeal. And y'all, you can't get no better than this cornmeal. I don't like cornbread unless it's made from this right here. It's just, I care nothing about cornbread that's made with a store-bought cornmeal. It's just not good to me. But this is, so, you know, something to think about. I really think anybody should try it. If they've got a place to plant, you really need to try it. But I guess that's it for this year, though. Our corn harvest is done.
Now, how much was it? How much did we have planted? Was it an acre?
We didn't have a total acre planted, no.
And we got all this, and it wasn't even quite an acre. So.
No, all we had total, we may have had, maybe between the Jimmy Red, the Indian corn, and this white corn, we may have had a half acre planted. Because that field up there is right at an acre, and I'd say roughly about half of it was in corn. Because we had it separated, trying to keep from cross-pollinating. We did have some of this go on. This actually came out of the Jimmy Red. And it looks just like the Hickory King, except it's got a couple purple kernels in it. So I don't know if maybe I had a white kernel trapped in the planter that got mixed in with the Jimmy Red, or what it was, but I still thought that was pretty cool. We actually had about 5 or 6 of those ears, and they're pretty ears. Oh, one other thing I wanted to show you, Megan, was that messed up ear. Let's walk down here to the Kubota. All
right. So something I want to mention as we're walking down here. So Andy mentioned my Papa, and so Papa back in the day, they didn't buy feed, but they had their milk cow, they had their mule to work the fields, they had their hogs. Y'all, he fed all them off of that corn that he grew every year. They didn't buy feed. Grandma told me that they would sometimes take the cornmeal that they made, and a lot of times they didn't have no extra scraps or something to feed the pigs, they'd mix that up in a little water, and that's what the pigs eat. And that was their slop, and the mule got 1 ear of corn a day, and that was the feed for that mule. And the mule was kept in a barn, so I mean, not a lot of extra that it had, but he got 1 ear of corn a day, and that was that mule's food, and that's what they fed their hogs. And the milk cow, they shell them 1 ear of corn, and that's what they fed the milk cow. So I guess why I'm saying that is we've all come used to, well, we've got to go buy feed, you know, if I'm going to have these animals, I've got to go buy feed. And I don't think it necessarily has to be that way.
Before I talk about this, one thing, like she just said, with a mule feeding it the ear of corn stuff, corn's always been what they call a hot feed. And so a horse or a mule or something like that would get a lot of energy from it if they eat an ear of corn. And back then, you know, they worked those mules. So that mule probably went out every single day and was plowing through the field or pulling a sled or doing something. So when you fed them that was like almost like an energy boost to them. And you couldn't feed them too much of it, because then it would founder them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you had to be real careful about how you fed them like that. But now, like with our, a lot of times them old timers, they wouldn't even turn their horses out on the pasture, because the horse would tear the pasture up so bad. They would eat the grass down so low that they would tear the pastures up. So they'd keep them up in a stall or something like that too, and feed them an ear of corn. But same sense, those horses were getting worked. Those horses were rode, you know, they weren't just standing in a stall all day. So
they weren't being like my sorry animal standing over here right now.
Exactly. You couldn't feed our horses straight up corn right now, because they don't get rode enough and worked enough to burn that off. And you know, like I said, they weren't in a stall all day long. They just went up in the stall at night. You know, most of the time, if they had a mule or a horse, that thing was working all day long, and then it was tied out somewhere, and then at nighttime they put it up in the stall, and next morning they're getting it right back out, kind of like a tractor would be to us now. You know, you go park your tractor at night, and you get it back out, and you use it that day. But then your cows and stuff, of course, were out on pasture, and they had hay and grass, and then you give them a little bit of corn too to supplement. And that's kind of what we do is, you know, we'll feed ours a little bit of corn here and there, and they mainly eat just the grass in the pasture. But what I wanted to show y'all was this wild looking ear right here. Now a couple of these done broke off, but look at that. Has anybody ever seen that before? That beats anything I've ever seen. Got one main ear coming up through the middle here, and then had 5 of these little mini ears that came off of the bottom here. Of course, it's not a pretty ear of corn, but that's still something that is wild to me.
The kid said it looked like a monster hand holding on to the corn cob.
I've showed this to a lot of people, and nobody has said they've seen anything like that yet. So if y'all have seen anything like that, leave it down in the comments and let us know, because that's interesting. But anyways, I guess that's it for this video. You got anything else to add? So anyways, we'll see how this goes, and hopefully next year we'll be planting some more. And I do think for sure we're going to be planting more of the white corn next year. We may plant a patch of the Jimmy Red just to have some, but I'm definitely going to be planting more of the white corn next year, because it
seemed to hold up.
It done a lot better.
Yeah.
We didn't have the bug issues with it. It just seemed to tolerate everything that we had going on a lot better, because we had a funny year. It turned out really wet. Then it turned extremely hot and dry early, a lot earlier than it should have. And then it turned back really wet again. And, you know, corn's sort of funny about that kind of stuff. And that white corn, just considering all that we had going on, that white corn really done good.
And it was a poor piece of land.
It's an extremely poor piece of land, and it still done good on it. So anyways, I guess that's it, and we'll catch you next time.